Hi there, this video is aimed primarily at 2bsirius. Hello there, Karen. This is a response to the comments that you made on my video that I posted either yesterday or the day before called White Elephant World, which was in turn a response to some videos by Mendham. And there's one particular, you made a lot of comments, and there's one particular bit I just want to pick up on because I did question you on it, but you haven't responded yet, so I want to just develop what I was getting at there in video form. And yeah, I want to try and develop it in two ways, because I know you have, this is a hot button issue for you, I recognise that, and you have very strong feelings about it, I recognise that, and I know that you regard my views and the views of others, unnamed, as what you refer to as toxic, which I doubt is an opinion I don't share. So in order to avoid that, I want to try to do this two ways. I want to talk in negative terms, in terms that you will have a problem with because you will regard them as toxic, and then I want to do a positive spin on it, which also reflects at the same time my honestly held opinion, so that we can find some more wiggle room to talk to one another in that. But the particular comment that you made and which I responded to was to do with selection, and what you said was that you were criticising my kind of Malthusian vision of or Hobbesian vision of the unit of the world as red in tooth and claw, which is fine, and you countered that by saying that many positive traits, it's not just violence and murder and bloodshed that are at work in the world around us, but there are positive traits which, as you say, are selected for. And you were citing people like Frans de Waals and Ramachandra and others, and I can't remember the list of things you said, but I'm guessing it was things like altruism, empathy, compassion. Well, yeah, I would agree with that completely, and I've mentioned that myself before, as you know. But as I said in my comments, every selection for is also a selection against. I mean, that's what selection's about, isn't it? That's the point I was making with my kind of Schindler's List analogy in the original video. Every selection for is also a selection against. And yes, of course, empathy is at work there. Of course, compassion or something like it, and altruism or something like it are at work there. But they work to make judgments, and judgments for, as I say, are always judgments against. So, just to stick with the kind of Schindler's List Nazi analogy, might as well keep that metaphor going. Let's look at the film Sophie's Choice. You know the film Sophie's Choice? Horrific film. Every parent's nightmare, this film. Because it presents, it's a long time since I saw it, but the crux of the film is that a mother, somewhere in Germany I think, or in Eastern Europe during the Second World War, is presented with that nightmare choice that all parents lie awake at night worrying about, which is, you know, if you had to choose between your two children, which one would you choose? And in the case of Sophie's Choice, it's the ultimate choice, because one goes to the gas chambers, one goes free. And Sophie has to make this choice, you know, it's a horrible choice. And, you know, and of course she does make this choice. One of her children dies and one lives. Now there's a way of telling that story in terms of empathy, compassion, altruism, kin selection. You can relate it to that, which I guess Frans de Waals would, if I was leaning on Frans de Waals, I would do. You know, Sophie didn't say, oh, fuck it, kill them both, I don't care. You know, she didn't say that. She exercised compassion, she exercised the altruism, empathy born of kin selection, the fact that these children were her kin, and exercising that, she selected from them and held her daughter to her in this moment of mother and daughter bonding, presumably. So then that would be an honest account of the story. Yeah, that's what happened. But it completely glosses over the fact that the other kid went to the gas chambers. Now you can see where I'm going with this, Karen. Obviously that's a very particular case, it doesn't happen amongst humans that often. Well, actually I haven't said it doesn't happen amongst humans that often, it happens all the time amongst humans. You know, every time a hospital administrator decides where the funding budget is going to be spent, that's a Sophie's Choice, isn't it? Every time the UN decides to send aid to this disaster as opposed to that disaster, it's a Sophie's Choice, people die as a result. And every time one of us on YouTube here has a whip round for some worthy cause, it's a Sophie's Choice. So Sophie's choices are always being made. I mean, maybe not in such a highly focused and highly visible way, but that they're being made all the time. And that's the that's how the animal kingdom works completely. That's what natural selection is, isn't it? Isn't that how that works? Now I know you think my evolutionary accounts are old-fashioned, so I'm not taking into account empathy and so on. But even if you take those things into account, sure, they feel good, but the drivers are still the same. I mean, if I can bring back Malthus again, I know Malthus is out of fashion, but what he said is basically correct. That we're driven, or at least the animal kingdom is driven by resources. An animal population will expand until it uses up all the resources, and at that point there'll be a selective pressure for the stronger to survive at the expense of the weaker, or something like it. But strength doesn't necessarily mean violence. It might be strength of empathic bonds to those most like you. It might be strength of altruistic feeling to those which carry your genes. It might be the strength of compassion you feel towards your kin. Sure, but those things are still the things that's making the choices, the selections. So I think in general, yeah, that's I stand by what I said. I mean, of course, I'm not going into the nuances of all that stuff. But nevertheless, selection for is always selection against, and you didn't address that at all. And if you find that toxic, I'm just sorry, I guess those 150 people who watch my videos will be forever contaminated by my toxins. Okay, let's see if I can spin that slightly more positively. Because you are citing people like Frans de Waal, and Frans de Waal is very interesting. And he points out what he refers to as empathy in the animal kingdom. Again, largely drawing on kin selection, but other processes perhaps as well. Sorry, the wind's picking up here, so I can move to a quieter spot. But it's a particular kind of empathy, isn't it? It is a particular kind of empathy. It's not the generalised empathy that humans seem to be capable of. It's absolutely Sophie's choice empathy, the empathy of choosing those nearest to you. There is no animal version of Jesus. No animal ever says, love your enemy. It just doesn't happen. No animal says, love your neighbour. Well, actually, they kind of do say, love your neighbour as yourself, but not love the neighbour on the opposite side of the world that's of a different species to yourself. They don't say that. It's what's unique, and which Frans de Waal glosses over completely. What's unique about the human species is that we are capable of generalising and abstracting out concepts like empathy, if you want to call it that, or altruism, if you want to call it that, or compassion, if you want to call it that. And I suspect this is to do with the particular nature of our cognition, probably to do with metaphor, I think, but that's my bag, isn't it? Because we're able to do certain things with ideas, not just use them, we can separate them from our context and reapply them in different contexts. We're not bound to kin selection, because kin selection produces empathy, or something like it. It doesn't necessarily in humans mean that we can only be empathic towards our kin. We are capable of doing the Jesus thing, at least in theory. We are capable of sending food aid to the other side of the world, sometimes even to other species, and that's a positive thing. That is a positive thing. We have politics. I know politics is a dirty word, and most of it's rubbish, but we do have politics. There's that great scene in Jeff Goldblum's version of The Fly, where he's 2/3 of the way to being a fly. He's a Blundell fly, staggering around, his ears are fallen off, his fingernails are fallen off. And the woman, his lover, comes to see him, and he says, have you ever heard of insect politics? And he goes on to say, there is no insect politics. Go now or I'll hurt you. That's the theme of that. And the fact that she doesn't go away, the fact she keeps coming back, and the fact that at the end she agrees to blow his brains out with a shotgun is, if you like, a kind of testament to exactly what you're talking about, which is relatively unique amongst humans. Humans are not Blundell flies. We do have politics. We do have the UN for all its flaws. We do have international relations for all their flaws. And sure, a lot of the time they are just making more sophisticated versions of Sophie's choices. But at least in principle, because we are able to abstract these ideas and hold them as beacons of hope for a future, and maybe even work towards them in small ways. You know, we're not bound into that. You know, we can read Frans de Waal and think, oh yeah, the animals can do this thing too, but that we do it different and we do it better, quite frankly. And I think it's really useful to remember that. Anyhow, that's that, Karen. That's all I've got to say on that. I hope you find the second bit positive and the first bit bracing, as I hope it is. I don't think it's toxic, to tell the truth, as I see it. I think spinning an interpretation of the world as if it was a beautiful place, when a lot of people feel it isn't, and even when they feel it is, there are accounts to demonstrate that they're wrong. I don't think it's terribly useful. That'll do.